It's a very sad story, and I got to know him. He was such a beautiful man, such a lovely man. Somewhere I saw footage and I saw this thing and I thought, well, surely you've seen this. That was a loss that clearly had a huge effect. The story, and it's absolutely imagine the panic, the sting of betrayal, the heartbreak, everything detonating at once. The people closest to him finally saw the truth staring them in the face. The man they trusted had been playing them the whole time. This wasn't just bad timing or confusion. It was an emotional earthquake crashing down hard. Everyone kept asking why, but the answer wasn't buried in police files or whispered in some PR statement. It was already echoing through Conan O'Brien's Christmas party while headlines stayed locked on the Sunday tragedy. The warning signs were flashing that night, loud, messy, and impossible to ignore. What went down between Rob and Nick Reiner wasn't tucked away behind closed doors. It happened right there in front of everyone. And it was explosive. That final confrontation didn't happen in secret. It unfolded in full view of Hollywood's elite. People didn't just hear it. They felt it shaking the room. This wasn't some small argument destined to fade away. It was the collapse of a dynasty happening in real time. Conan's party wasn't your average Hollywood get-together. It was sacred ground. The kind of place where power players dropped the masks and finally relaxed. The air smelled like pine, top-shelf scotch, and pure money. Laughter filled the polished halls until those heavy oak doors opened and in walked Rob, Michelle, and Nick Reiner. Instantly, the whole room shifted. Look at him. But his head kind of shaved. And I don't know if that's what he looked like, but he looks like he's got a screw or an evil screw. So, he was 32 years old. He was at a holiday party hosted by Conan O'Brien. Conversations froze, smiles stiffened, and every instinct in that mansion screamed. Something bad was about to happen. Rob walked in with that familiar grin, the same one fans adored from The Princess Bride. And when Harry met Sally. But up close, that smile wasn't real. It looked hollow, forced. His eyes were tight, his shoulders stiff, trying to fake calm while a storm brewed inside. He wasn't there to celebrate. He was there to hold his family together, to pull his son back before the world saw the chaos boiling behind the curtain. Rob still believed the same Hollywood machine that made them could somehow fix them. But Nick wasn't following the script anymore. With his shaved head and those sharp, scanning eyes, Nick didn't look like a guest. He looked like a threat. Every movement was tense, deliberate, charged with something dangerous. He sliced through the crowd like static, cutting through silence. No warmth, no curiosity, just pure friction. Then it happened. Nick locked on to Bill Hader, the comedian known for his easy kindness. And instead of greeting him, he fired off cold, cutting questions right to his face. No handshake, no smile, just quiet hostility hanging thick in the air. The room froze again. Everyone could feel it. Something dark was happening right in front of their eyes. "What's your name? Are you famous?" Nick's words sliced through the noise like glass. There was no curiosity in his tone. It was sharp, mocking. Nick wasn't trying to connect. He was testing dominance, tearing down everything his father built, one conversation at a time. It was cruel, deliberate, and every jab felt like an attack on Rob's pride. Rob Reiner and Nick got into a quote very loud argument. His behavior at Conan's house alarmed the guests because it was so bizarre. One of the guests recalled Rob Reiner telling his son his behavior was inappropriate. Every glare, every question was a challenge, a rebellion on full display. This wasn't random chaos. It was strategy. Nick was sending a public message loud and clear. His father's legacy meant nothing anymore. Across the room, Rob froze, heart pounding so hard it looked like it might break his chest open. This wasn't just embarrassment. It was fear. That cold, detached look in Nick's eyes, like he was scanning people, not as friends or colleagues, but as trophies, made the air turn icy. Decades of loyalty, fame, and respect gone in seconds. Then came the explosion. The calm of the night shattered. The laughter stopped. The music cut out. And every head turned toward the argument erupting between Rob, Michelle, and Nick. It wasn't quiet. It wasn't polite. It was raw, emotional, and brutal. Guests who had known Rob for 40 years just stood frozen, speechless. They weren't watching a Hollywood legend anymore. They were watching a father losing control in real time. Michelle, always the calm one, looked terrified, her eyes darting across the room, desperate for a way out. And standing just beyond it all was Conan O'Brien, watching carefully. He knew this wasn't some drunken scene. It was something darker. The kind of moment when control slips for good. Having the death penalty on the table is absolutely a bargaining trip. The prosecution is going to leverage that to try to get some sort of deal. Rob Reiner, the man who once commanded entire film sets and built dynasties, now stood powerless before his own son. The shouting slowed, but the tension didn't fade. It just hung there, heavy and chilling, reminding everyone that the mask had finally fallen. Rob leaned in close to a trusted friend and whispered, not with anger, but with fear. "I'm scared. I don't know what he's going to do next." Those words hit the room like a shockwave. Nobody wanted to believe it, but everyone felt the truth sink in. The tension was thick, almost suffocating. And when the Reiners finally left, silence swallowed the room whole. No one dared to gossip. They just stood there, stunned. Rob and Michelle walked toward their car like strangers bound by name. Not love. The air outside was freezing. The kind that burns when you breathe. The moment that door shut, all the laughter, the music, the illusion of safety stayed behind. That car wasn't just driving them home. It was carrying pure dread. Los Angeles shimmered like it always does, pretending everything was perfect, but everyone who saw them leave knew something inside that family had cracked. That drive home wasn't quiet. Brian telling guests at the party who wanted to call 911 to not do so. Al, obviously Conan O'Brien, is not responsible for this man's behavior. They had called, and Rob Reiner's son was placed on a psychiatric hold. Rob Reiner and his wife would probably still be alive today. Conan O'Brien stopped a friend from calling 911 during an explosive fight between Rob and Nick Reiner at the comedian's Christmas party just hours before the director's son allegedly took his. It was haunted. Saturday night was the warning. Sunday morning would bring the reckoning. The sun rose over Brentwood like nothing happened. Bright, flawless, merciless. The lawns perfect, the hedges trimmed, the cameras blinking red like silent witnesses. From the outside, the Reiner estate looked untouchable. But inside, the silence wasn't peace. It was final. The shouting had stopped. The fight had ended. Whatever burned through that house the night before had reached its end. Then came the first sound breaking through the stillness. Not alarms, not panic, just the faint buzz of the gate intercom. The family's massage therapist had arrived for a normal session with Rob and Michelle. Just another calm Sunday appointment in a house that seemed built on order and success. She pressed the button once, nothing. Pressed again, still nothing. The quiet seemed to press back harder, almost alive. Something wasn't right, and she felt it deep down. She tried calling the house, no answer. Called their cell phones. Ring after ring, swallowed by silence. The morning rhythm was off. The air itself felt wrong. Still, instead of calling emergency services right away, she reached out to someone who truly knew that home. Their daughter, Ro. Ro lived just across the street, close enough to always feel safe. That call shattered the illusion of a normal Sunday. The comfort of being nearby suddenly became a curse. Ro didn't hesitate. Not for a second. She didn't wait for reassurance or reason. She just ran. Picture it. A daughter sprinting across that quiet Brentwood street, heart pounding like a drum, breath sharp in the cold morning air. This is someone who also lived with his parents. Nick Reiner lived here with his parents. We still don't know who it was that made the initial call, but NBC4 Investigates also has learned that the daughter was here at the home when police arrived. Now, as far as Nick Reiner is concerned, the troubled son of Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner, who had been in and out of rehab, there was a documentary that was made about him that involved his father. Her mind scrambled for excuses. Maybe they're asleep. Maybe the phone's died. Maybe everything's fine. But deep down, she knew something was terribly off. When she reached the gate, Ro and her roommate rushed in, desperate for any sign of normal life. But the second she stepped inside, everything changed. The air was heavy, unnatural. The house felt wrong, too still, too cold. Familiar rooms suddenly looked foreign. Every floorboard creaked like a warning. The scent of home was still there, but twisted, tainted by something she couldn't explain. And then she found him. We don't need to describe what she saw. Her reaction said it all. Ro didn't scream. She didn't even call out. She ran, bursting through the front door, collapsing onto the driveway, gasping like all the air had been ripped from her lungs. Minutes later, flashing red and blue lights painted the hedges. A first responder stepped out and delivered words no child should ever hear. Michelle was gone too. In less than 20 minutes, Ro went from checking in on her parents to standing in a reality that made no sense. Detectives started their slow, careful walkthrough. Cameras flashed, neighbors whispered, but one detail sliced through all the noise. There was no forced entry, no broken glass, no damaged locks, no alarms, just silence and heartbreak lingering in the air. The scene was spotless. Too spotless. That single detail flipped the entire case upside down. This wasn't some break-in gone wrong. Whatever happened came from inside the house. It confirmed the fear Rob Reiner had whispered the night before. I don't know what he's going to do next. The danger hadn't been outside the gates. It was already within. The house hadn't been invaded. It had been betrayed. NBC4 has now confirmed that he remains isolated from other prisoners. He's not in general population. He is under an watch, a video watch if you will. Colleen and Michael mean that everything he does is being watched and monitored on video. He is not in the prison system per se. He is in a medical ward in the prison system, and Nick Reiner right now remains behind bars without bail. When we see you tonight at 7, reaction to the death of Rob and Michelle Reiner that is still reverberating around the world. I'm Robert Kvasik here in Brentwood. Let's Go Back to the Door was left open out of love, and that love was turned against them. By evening, the Reiner estate wasn't a home anymore. It was a sealed-off investigation site, a heartbreaking monument to what trust can cost. Behind the yellow tape, Rose stood staring at the house that raised her. Now silent, lifeless as she struggled to breathe under the weight of grief. Something else was already unfolding 15 miles away. And it was darker than anyone imagined. The city braced for chaos. Sirens, helicopters, breaking news alerts. Everyone expected a desperate runaway, a man spiraling out of control. But what they got instead was colder than fiction. LAPD surveillance footage from a gas station near Exposition in Vermont shattered every assumption. The video showed Nick Reiner, calm, collected, disturbingly ordinary. No panic, no rush, no fear. He walked in wearing a black and green jacket, a baseball cap pulled low, and a red backpack. He moved slowly, scanning the aisles like any regular shopper. He even paused at the coolers, deciding which drink to buy. He picked up a sports drink, checked the label, thought it over, and got in line behind strangers. People who had no idea they were standing next to the most wanted man in Los Angeles. There was no trembling, no guilt, just eerie calm. That image rattled investigators to their core because what they saw wasn't confusion. It was control. Cold, steady control. He paid for the drink with a credit card, collected his receipt, and walked out. That small act hit detectives like a punch. The man accused of something unthinkable was standing calmly under bright lights, acting like it was just another day. Even the cashier later told police he seemed polite, relaxed, totally normal. Experts couldn't wrap their heads around it. A real psychological break usually leaves chaos in its wake. Panic, disarray, mistakes. But Nick's every move looked methodical, like a man who had locked away his emotions, sealed them tight, and switched into survival mode. He didn't drive from Brentwood to Exposition. He used public transport. Calm, precise, navigating Los Angeles like a commuter, not a fugitive. Every step showed awareness, timing, transfers, routes. This wasn't confusion. It was calculation. Cameras followed him to a small hotel in Santa Monica, and that's where things turned darker. Inside that room, he didn't collapse or lose control. He covered the windows with sheets, a detail that chilled investigators. That's not delusion. That's avoidance. He knew people would be searching. That room became a bunker. Forensics later confirmed it had been used to clean up, to wash, to change, to erase traces of what came before. Every clue pointed to intention, not panic. Step by step, He was managing fallout. When police finally found him, there was no chase, no struggle, just that same unsettling calm. He surrendered quietly. But the real twist wasn't the capture. It was what came next. Nick wasn't placed with the general population. He was transferred to a high-security medical ward, isolated under 24-hour watch. Every movement monitored, every breath recorded. Officially, it was for protection. High-profile cases attract risk behind bars. But insiders whispered there was another reason. Control. That room became the true battleground for what's next. Now begins the legal war. Insanity or awareness. The defense will point to that ward and argue he's sick. He needs treatment, not punishment. They'll paint him as broken, detached from reality. But prosecutors have their weapon ready. The gas station footage. Nick standing calm in line, buying a drink. No fear, no panic. Their message is simple and chilling. He knew exactly what he was doing. That's the real horror. The man in that footage didn't look dangerous. He looked polite, quiet, normal, just a guy under fluorescent lights holding a bottle and a secret that destroyed lives. Now, Brentwood and Exposition Park are only 15 miles apart, but the distance between the son Rob thought he knew and the man on that video is endless. That's where truth and terror meet. While media outlets chase the clock, real experts focus on facts that never lie. Evidence, science, and blood patterns. Former FBI profiler Mary Ellen Toole read the case like an open book. Her analysis stripped away drama and revealed something darker. The lack of forced entry wasn't procedural. It was psychological. The threat came from someone trusted, but the real turning point came from what investigators found on Rob and Michelle. Official reports listed multiple sharp force injuries, cold, technical words, but experts knew what that meant: rage. This wasn't random or impulsive. It was personal, an explosion of emotion where love twisted into fury. Ull called it what it was: overkill. The level of force went far beyond what was necessary. It wasn't just about ending a life. It was about erasing connection. Years of resentment and buried emotion erupting in one brutal moment. And what trapped the defense wasn't just emotion. It was physics. In forensics, it's called slippage. When someone strikes with extreme force, the grip fails, hands slide, and injuries occur on the attacker's own skin. Blood mixes. DNA overlaps. And that's the trap. No matter how calculated a plan is, science doesn't lie. If Nick suffered wounds during the attack, his DNA wouldn't just appear where it belonged. It would show up where it shouldn't, right beside the people he was supposed to protect. Those microscopic traces, the blood, the skin cells, tell the story that words can't. Once they're mixed, there's no undoing it. The evidence speaks louder than any defense ever could. Forensic experts have a chilling phrase for it: a biochemical handshake, proof that locks a person into the exact second a violent act occurs. It's not theory or speculation. It's science-backed truth time-stamped by nature itself. That kind of evidence erases every excuse. No one wandered in later. No one stumbled upon the scene after the fact. Science makes it clear who was there when it happened. Inside the house, every detail echoed that same story. No broken drawers, no stolen valuables, no signs of struggle typical of a robbery. The motive wasn't greed. It was personal. The target wasn't money. The target was human. Every mark, every movement screamed intent. Whoever did this knew that house intimately, the rhythm of its mornings, the quiet of its nights. They knew exactly where Rob and Michelle would be. And when this wasn't a stranger intruding, it was someone already inside. When the yellow tape finally came down and the forensic vans disappeared, what lingered over Brentwood wasn't just evidence. It was heartbreak. A silence too heavy to bear. Forensics can explain how it happened, but not why it hurt so deeply. The world didn't just lose a Hollywood legend, it lost a piece of its own innocence. Fans who grew up watching Rob's movies could hardly process what they were hearing. One viewer summed it up perfectly online: to give life to a person only to have that person end yours. That line cut through every headline and report straight to the heart of the pain. Rob Reiner had spent decades creating life on screen, giving audiences warmth, humor, and hope. His characters taught people about love, kindness, and second chances. Off-screen, he lifted others up, mentoring young filmmakers, advocating for children, and standing for justice. He built lives. He didn't destroy them. And that's what makes this tragedy unbearable. The man who embodied compassion was torn apart by the bond he cherished most: his own family. The heartbreak goes far beyond fame. It's about the collapse of something sacred, the shattering of a universal truth. Parents protect, children grow, love endures. Rob and Michelle didn't fall because they lacked love. They fell because they loved too deeply, fiercely, blindly, until that same love left them exposed. And that's why this story cuts beyond Hollywood. It's not just a case. It's a wound the world wasn't ready for. Their story exposes something terrifyingly human. You can have everything: wealth, resources, compassion, and still not save someone who's chosen a darker path. That's the harsh truth. Brentwood's silence exposed a reality many ignore. Addiction and untreated mental illness don't just stay locked away. They seep into families, twisting love and leaving scars that never heal. This tragedy doesn't end with police reports or trials. It lingers, haunting, unresolved, like a storm that won't pass. One question keeps echoing: how does love slowly turn dangerous without anyone stopping it? It wasn't sudden. It built up, quietly stacking pressure behind those perfect gates. The home that looked safe from the outside had been cracking for years now. Even as the yellow tape disappears and Brentwood streets return to calm, something there will never feel normal again. The lawns are perfect, but trust is broken for good. This wasn't just a loss. It shattered the illusion that money, fame, or good intentions can fix everything. Rob Reiner spent his career telling stories about loyalty and connection, about standing by the people you love, no matter what. That wasn't just a script. It was his belief system. He lived it. He fought for it. And Michelle stood beside him, quietly holding it all together. No one could see the pressure inside those walls. They looked strong, but they were carrying a burden too heavy to bear. This case keeps dragging uncomfortable truths into the light. Mental struggles don't vanish when ignored. They grow. Love without limits doesn't always heal. It can hide danger. And silence, even when born from hope, can turn fatal. Each new report adds more pain, more questions, and more heartbreak. This isn't a clean story. It's jagged, raw, and terrifyingly real. Maybe that's why people can't look away. Because behind all the glitz, the headlines, and the heartbreak, this story feels painfully familiar. It's not just about Hollywood anymore. It's about families everywhere. Parents, children, brothers, sisters, all watching and quietly asking questions they've avoided for years. What red flags did we ignore? When does care become denial? When does love, the purest thing we have, start protecting the wrong person? These are ugly questions. But for the first time, people are finally daring to ask them. Because deep down, everyone knows this isn't just about fame. It's about the human condition. About how easy it is to believe everything's fine when it isn't. How love can blind us just as easily as it can save us. Even the happiest homes hide cracks that no one wants to admit are there. And when those cracks finally split open, the pain that spills out is something no one can control. This story proves that. Behind the perfectly trimmed hedges and the glossy smiles, there was struggle. Pain that money, status, and kindness couldn't fix. And that's the part that makes people's hearts ache. It reminds them that silence doesn't heal what's broken. It just delays the inevitable. Pain doesn't fade when ignored. It lingers in the walls, in conversations left unfinished, in love stretched too thin. Until one day everything erupts. With every new report, every detail revealed, the weight doesn't lift, it gets heavier. The grief, the confusion, the disbelief, it doesn't fade, it deepens. Nothing about this feels resolved. Not the case, not the heartbreak, not the unanswered questions that keep echoing in everyone's minds. And yet, amid the noise, one truth keeps shining through. Rob Reiner gave the world laughter, compassion, and soul. His films weren't just entertainment. They were lessons in humanity. His characters felt real because they came from a real place, his heart. They taught us how to love, how to forgive, how to laugh through pain. He believed in people, in second chances, in the idea that kindness mattered most. He built stories that lifted others up. And those stories will outlive the tragedy that took him away. He shouldn't be remembered by how it ended, but by everything he gave. His work changed lives. His art made people feel. His legacy is one of warmth, empathy, and connection. And Michelle Reiner, her presence was the quiet force behind it all. The calm within the chaos. Her strength was never loud, but it was unbreakable. She was grace personified. Through years of fame, family pressure, and personal struggle, she carried more than anyone realized. Her love was steady, her faith unwavering, even when life around her was crumbling. Together, Rob and Michelle were a symbol of devotion. A couple who weathered storms, who believed that love could overcome anything. But love, as this story shows, can be both a shield and a trap. It can protect you or blind you. It can heal or quietly destroy. And that's what makes their story so deeply human. Because who hasn't wanted to believe that love alone could fix what's broken? Who hasn't hoped that care and loyalty would be enough to save someone slipping away? This tragedy forces those questions into the open. It demands that people stop pretending everything's fine when it's not. It shines a harsh light on what so many families face behind closed doors. Mental health struggles, addiction, pain, and silence. The kind of silence that grows until it's unbearable. And that's the part that hits hardest, because it's not just about what happened inside one house in Brentwood. It's about what happens everywhere. How darkness seeps into homes that look perfect from the outside. How love can become both the reason you fight and the reason you fall. Forensic experts, psychologists, even close friends have all said the same thing. What happened here didn't come out of nowhere. It built up slowly, quietly over years, pressure stacking day after day behind those polished walls. Rob and Michelle had been carrying a weight no one else could see, trying to protect, trying to heal, trying to hold together something that was already unraveling. That's what makes this story so haunting, because it could happen anywhere to anyone. It's not about fame or money. It's about love, fear, and the human instinct to hope. Sometimes past the point of reason. The investigation will continue. Experts will keep debating sanity, motive, and intent. But in the court of public opinion, one truth has already taken hold. This was never about greed. It was never about fame. It was about love. Love stretched past its breaking point. And maybe that's why it hurts so much. Because deep down, everyone understands it. Everyone knows what it's like to love someone who's struggling. To make excuses. To hope they'll change. To tell yourself it'll be okay when it isn't. That's the hidden tragedy. How easily love turns into denial. How quickly protection becomes danger. If this story touched you, take a moment to think. Not just about the headlines, but about the people behind them. About the warning signs we all tend to overlook. About how important it is to talk, to ask questions, to check in before it's too late. Awareness isn't gossip. It's survival. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is refuse to stay silent. Let's keep that conversation alive. Let's talk about boundaries, awareness, and the real emotional cost families carry behind closed doors. Because the truth is, this story isn't just theirs. It belongs to all of us. It's a mirror reflecting what happens when love goes unchecked and pain stays buried. Rob and Michelle Reiner left behind a legacy that can't be erased. A legacy of love, creativity, and resilience. They gave the world warmth and hope even when their own lives were heavy. That's how they should be remembered. Not for how it ended, but for how deeply they cared, how hard they fought, and how much they gave. So, if this story moved you, take a second to honor that legacy. Talk about it. Share your thoughts with empathy, not judgment. Keep the conversation alive, not for spectacle, but for understanding. Because stories like this remind us that behind every smiling photo, there's a human story full of struggle, hope, and heartbreak. And if you believe these stories deserve to be told truthfully and with care, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps the truth alive, told the right way, with heart, honesty, and respect. Rest peacefully, Rob and Michelle. You gave the world far more than it ever gave back. Your light still shines. Your love still teaches. and your story will never be forgotten.